Israel means by peace, surrender, capitulation, foregoing our rights, accepting to live as slaves in our own homeland. If you follow what the Israeli officials at the top level, from Prime Minister Netanyahu downward, have been saying over the last 8 weeks, it was all genocidal discourse, all of it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zomlot, for being here with us today. Firstly, I would like to thank you for your patient, conscientious, and logical responses to the Western media, which only ask they condemn Hamas, they condemn 7th of October, and turns a blind eye to everything else during all this process. So they're looking but not seeing, not understanding. Please tell me, what should they see, what should they understand in Gaza?
They should see a people struggle that has been there for at least 75 years. They should be see an entire nation that has been struggling for national rights, for liberation, for ending occupation and colonization and besiegement and apartheid. A people's struggle for equity and equality, like all other nations. They should zoom out and really understand that this is a struggle that any nation, any people, any human being would undertake, would support, and would want to see concluded in a positive sense. They often strip the situation of context, strip it off context. They have more, the mainstream Western media approach of a snapshot. They snapshot as if history started at a certain point. And usually that point they pick is a point when Israelis are harmed, but they never really focus when Palestinians are harmed, and the numbers are much more striking and the oppression is much more sustained. And that's why we have had to challenge the mainstream media over the last few weeks and to reject their logic, their questions that often are leading and loaded questions that seek not to reveal the truth, but seek to frame and blame the victims. That is a business that has gone on for a long time, and we no longer accept it, and we must challenge it, all of us.
I want to ask you about the BBC interview, the reactions you received. Can you discuss that interview, please? Because you gave a historical speech there, actually.
Well, the BBC, all other mainstream media in the UK, in the US, worldwide, they really started from the wrong point of only wanting to, again, focus on a certain event without putting the whole thing into perspective and into context, historical content, and also political and legal content, making and creating the impression that it's the Palestinians that are occupying Israel, not the other way around. Creating the impression that it's the people of Palestine who are violent, and that Israel has the right of self-defense. But sometimes maybe the media would accept Israel goes further and exaggerate that right of self-defense. But Israel has the D word, defense, and we have the V word, violence. That's unfair, untrue, unjust, because the mother of all violence, the root of all violence, is the occupation. The occupation is the most violent act, because occupation, military occupation, robs the people of their identity, of their land, of their rights, of their freedoms, freedom to move, freedom to work, freedom to love, and to marry whoever you choose. If you happen to be from the wrong side of the border, you cannot reunite with your wife or husband or your spouse. So occupation is the source of all violence, and therefore the media has contributed over the years of defiling, desecrating the very legitimate struggle of the Palestinian people, legitimate in terms of calling and demanding for rights, that are natural rights, inalienable rights. So defaming, defiling our struggle, that is mainstream media in the West, and at the same time, in a way, giving cover for the Israeli atrocities. That business has got to stop. And that's why you've seen some of these interviews, and maybe you've seen the answers were very clear. Stop. Stop the no longer this logic, this game of deceit is allowed. Media has one mandate. That mandate is the truth, conveying the truth. And we believe that several of these mainstream media outlets have not been conveying the truth, have been conveying the Israeli narrative, the narrative of the occupier, and have in the process contributed to the continuation of the oppression and subjugation and humiliation of the Palestinian people. And by the way, let me add, and the dehumanization of the Palestinian people.
Of course. Mr. Zomlot, is this a genocide?
Well, that is a matter for lawyers, but lawyers and the law is very clear. Genocide needs two elements. The first is the action of killing and murdering and destroying a community, a group, in part or in whole. And then the second part is the intent, that you have the intent to do so. And I think if you follow what the Israeli officials at the top level, from Prime Minister Netanyahu downward, have been saying over the last 8 weeks, it was all genocidal discourse, all of it. From the Prime Minister of Israel quoting the Amalek, which is a biblical story whereby they have to go and kill every man, woman, and child, kill every animal, every camel and donkey, etc., to the Israeli war minister who said that we are fighting human animals and therefore we're going to cut electricity and water and medicine and everything, to other minister who asked for Gaza to be nuked. And the list is long. So the intent is in the public sphere. It's on the record. The action is in the public sphere, on the record. And this is now up to the international legal institutions to judicate, to deliberate, and to come up with a verdict very soon that Israel has actually committed genocide against the Palestinian people.
What affected you most deeply during this process?
You know, I am Palestinian, and I've lived my life in many Palestinian areas, but I am from Gaza. I was born in Gaza, so most of my family are from Gaza. So, and also my team in the Palestinian mission in the UK, the embassy, at least half of them are from Gaza. So the personal side was very difficult. While we had to do our work, we had to convey the message. We have to be diplomats in terms of representing our country, our people, with the government, with the parliament, parties, media, and what have you, and with the people, the public, the demonstrations. We also had to worry about our own families. And many of my team members lost family members, including myself. So the most difficult part was the agony and the sadness and the worry about our people in Gaza and in the West Bank, because I have many family and friends in the West Bank. And by the way, the West Bank is not really much better. The settler violence, the army raids of Jenin and Nablus, of all Palestinian cities. We are now talking about more than 250 Palestinians killed over the last few weeks by the army and the settler militias. It was very difficult to do your job, and you have to do it, but at the same time worry and care about your own family and your own people.
Israeli occupation forces detained and stripped civilians from UN shelter in Gaza. What can you say about that tragedy?
It's a huge tragedy and crime. And it's no longer a crime against the Palestinian people. It's a crime against the international system. It's a crime against the United Nations. Israel is not only violating international law, Israel is bombing international law, bombing international institutions, bombing the United Nations. And that's why you had the UN Secretary General, Mr. Guterres, only a couple of days ago, invoking Article 99 in an unprecedented historic way, because Mr. Guterres knows that he not only he needs now to save Palestinian lives, he needs to save himself, and he needs to save the international system. Israel has really destroyed all the rules we have built after the Second World War. You know, the rules-based international order came out of the horrors of the Second World War, and the main idea that war should never be the first option. That's why we have Security Council. And therefore the Security Council should prevent wars, should maintain world peace and security, and find other ways to resolve issues. They failed. The world has failed, including yesterday when the US vetoed for the third or the fourth time a resolution in the Security Council for a ceasefire. What a bad moment for the US history, for the US standing, and for the global order. The second rule of the international system, if wars are to be an option, there are rules. There are rules for these wars. And Israel has bombarded all these rules, that you should never target civilians. All these rules that are very well known, the four Geneva Conventions and what have you. And these rules entail that Israel must provide protection for the civilians under their occupation. The third sort of rule, should war happen, under these rules, there will have to be accountability for anybody who commits war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israel has literally destroyed all these rules, and the West has enabled Israel to drag it and to drag countries like the US and the UK into these immoral wars, immoral aggression and oppression of the Palestinian people over a period of 75 years. But it has gotten to a very high level now of dragging Western countries into this immoral war that is appearing more and more a war that has nothing to do with legality or morality, but has to do with might and with power and with vested interest of politicians rather than the interests of the human family and the international community.
Considering the statistics showing that the number of Palestinians arrested since 7th of October is 12 times greater than the numbers released. What do you think about it?
This is the Israeli doctrine and strategy for a long time. You know, whenever there is a negotiation about prisoner exchange and release, they arrest huge numbers. So they release some of them during the exchange, and they keep others just to keep their prisons full. Almost they have a ratio they want to keep all the time of Palestinians being behind bars. So yeah, we are familiar with this very unfortunate tactic. And when the point comes, every Palestinian prisoner that has been subjected to the Israeli martial law have been unduly arrested. And many of them are arrested without charge, without trial. Many of them are children, as you saw in the last release. Many of them are women. Many of them are terminally ill with cancer and many other diseases. Therefore, Israel must stop this very inhumane, immoral practice of arresting our people without any legal process.
What are the scenarios in front of us? Do you think a ceasefire is possible? Do you believe there will ever be peace in Palestine?
Yeah, peace is difficult. Peace requires justice. Peace requires will, courage. But peace is possible. It's possible. But we have to redefine peace, because Israel has really desecrated the meaning of this beautiful word, peace. You know, most civilizations, all civilizations are based on one word, peace. Islam comes from peace. The word Islam is peace, right? And you greet your people and everywhere in the Muslim world, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. So peace is an integral part of our human civilization, culture. And so in all other religions, not just Islam, in Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism. But unfortunately, Israel over the last many decades have desecrated this term. It has become the meaning of it in the heads and in the conscience of millions of Palestinians and in the region and worldwide that Israel means by peace surrender, capitulation, foregoing our rights, accepting to live as slaves in our own homeland. So we need to reclaim the real meaning of peace. Peace means justice. Peace means the end of occupation. Peace begins when occupation ends. The idea that you can have security without giving people and ending your illegality is not going to happen. So I repeat, we must insist that peace is possible, but it can be only possible when we believe and act that the first day of peace is the first day of the end of occupation.
What message or call to action would you extend to the Western leaders and Muslim or Arab leaders?
You know, Israel is getting the political, material, financial, military support by some Western governments. We have been getting a lot of goodwill and verbal support by the Arab and Muslim world. We cannot have a situation of imbalance like this. We need more than statements. And we appreciate the statements. We appreciate the unity of the position. You've seen the summit that happened in Riyadh between Arab and Muslim world, and there was a united position, but that united position needs actions. The Palestinian people need actions. Actions to make sure that Israel realizes that there are consequences to its illegal actions, to its crimes. Actions that would protect the Palestinian people and provide them with the means to protect ourselves and the means to survive. So this requires much more than words.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for your contributions.